Sri Radha Krishna Pada Patarubhyascha Nambasindubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Guru Yatkripātamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamadam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopi So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Urjayam Jagnire Putra Vasishthasya Parantapa
Parantapa
Chitraketu Pradhanaste
Chitraketu Pradhanaste
Sapta Brahmarshayo Mala
Sapta Brahmarshayo Mala
Urjayam Jagnire Putra
Ujayam Jagnire Putra
Vasishthasya Parantapa
Vasishthasya Parantapa
Chitraketu Pradhanaste
Chitraketu Pradhanaste
Sapta Brahmarshayo Mala.
Sapta Brahmarshayo Mala
Anyone wants to?
Urjayam Jagnire Putra
Urjayam Jagnire Putra
Vasishthasya Parantapa
Vasishthasya Parantapa
Chitraketu Pradhanaste
Chitraketu Pradhanaste
Sapta Brahmarshayo Mala
Sapta Brahmarshayo Mala. What? Urjayam
Urjayam
in Urja. Jagnire took birth. Putraha sons. Vasishthasya the great sage Vasishtha. Parantapa O great one. Chitraketu Pradhanaha headed by they all the sons. Sapta seven. Brahma Rishayaha great sages with spiritual knowledge. Great sages with spiritual knowledge. Amalaha without contamination. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sage Vasishtha begot in his wife Purja, sometimes called Arundhati, 7 spotlessly great sages, headed by the sage named Chitraketu. Chitraketu Surocischa Viraja Mitra Evacha Ulbano Vasubhradhyano Dhyuman Shakti Adayo Pare. Chitraketu Surochicha and Surochi Viraja Mitra Eva also Cha and Ulbana Vasubhridhyana Dhyuman Shakti Adayaha sons headed by Shakti Apare from his other wife. Translation. The names of these 7 sages are as follows: Chitraketu, Surochi, Viraja, Mitra, Ulbana, Vasubhridhyana, and Dhyuman. Some other very competent sons were born from Vasishta's other wife, purported by his divine grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Urja, who is sometimes known as Arundhati and was the wife of Vasishta, was the 9th daughter of Kardam Muni. Again, Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo Namaha. All glories to all devotees. So all of you are very exalted, very special devotees. Prabhupada wrote in one purport to Srimad Bhagavatam that someone who, I mean, in this case, Prabhupada speak about deity worship, but Prabhupada, and even someone who does any service very sincerely and one who follows the instructions of spiritual masters sincerely, Prabhupada said, he is a pure devotee. So, of course, there are two types of pure devotees. One kind of pure devotee is a pure devotee in practice, and another is a pure devotee who has attained the perfection. But even a pure devotee in practice is as a Madhyamadikari, is very powerful, and he can do great. Uh, he can assist the Guru Parampara to actually plant the seed of love of God in the heart. He is very powerful. So yeah, all of you are actually in that sense you are pure devotees because you are trying your best. Um, you are very strictly and seriously executing your service and following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, and so you're all very exalted. So uh, I seek all of your blessings, and especially His Grace, Eagle Kishore Prabhu. So this is very interesting. These purports about the lineages are very interesting. So human form of life is actually meant for self-realization. Self-realization means to realize that our real happiness, our real existence, the thing that we want, that does not exist in this world. What we actually want, we may give so many names, but ultimately what we want is Krishna and Krishna only. So every living entity in this world is seeking after happiness, searching after happiness. And the only person who can truly satisfy you is Krishna. Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees can only, nobody else has the potential, has the capability to make you happy. So that is something that we have to understand, because as a devotee, it's very important to understand that everything else is just a detail. In terms of our soul, the vision of the soul, everything else is just a detail. But the only thing which actually the soul can actually relish, or the food for the soul, is the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And so the only way the soul will become happy is by providing enjoyment to Krishna, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada makes a very powerful line in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says that someone who does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead as absolute truth will never attain the perfection of life, and that is to go back to Godhead. So what does that mean? That means to accept Krishna as the only and the supreme enjoyer. And we are all meant for his enjoyment. So what it means is the two things. It means as much as possible we have to engage the mind in the service of Krishna. We have to try to engage the mind in the service of Krishna as per the revealed scripture. That's why scripture is very important. What is the purpose of scripture? Scripture teaches us how to engage the mind in Krishna's service. How to cultivate the proper service attitude. So scripture actually teaches us that by following the previous acharyas. And then we have to engage. Two things are required. One thing is, Prabhupada says, knowledge, spiritual knowledge and renunciation. So if by practicing, by having these two, knowledge and renunciation, and then engaging the senses with Prabhupada says with great austerity in the service of the Lord. So when one engages the senses and the mind with great austerity in the service of the Lord, with knowledge, proper spiritual knowledge, Sambandha Tattva Gyan, Abhidheya Tattva Gyan, Prayoja Tattva Gyan, with knowledge and with renunciation, which means trying as much as possible to abstain from sense gratification in different ways. So when one does both of these things, then Prabhupada says one can come to the stage of Brahmabhuta. One can come to the stage of being satisfied without hankering or lamenting, being satisfied with Krishna being happy. Like this, Prabhu said very nicely that what is the easiest way to come to the platform of transcendence? The easiest way is actually to identify only with Krishna's pleasure. His Holiness Haladhar Maharaj says very, I mean, I'm not qualified to speak, but he says that you never think of your pleasure, never think of your happiness, but only think of Krishna's happiness. So if you do that and you identify with that, then naturally you become happy. So by trying, just by trying to please Krishna, even you may not please Krishna, but you just try to please Krishna, immediately you become so happy. But on the other hand, even if you fully accomplish the goal of trying to make yourself happy, you do all the arrangements. And that is the Chitraketu Maharaj's pastime. The Chitraketu Maharaj is such a great king, and Chitraketu had everything and finally got a child, he got everything, but still he was so unhappy. Actually, this is also a very important point, is for myself. It's only for myself because um, you're all very, very exalted. That many times we may think that we are unhappy, we are upset because of some other devotee or some other person, even our spouse. But actually, as a devotee, we can only become unhappy when we don't perceive Krishna's happiness. Only when Krishna is unhappy with us, actually we can become unhappy. Because if Krishna is happy with us, we can never become unhappy. Even in the most provocative situation, we can never become unhappy. We can never become, anxiety may be there, but we'll never be disheartened if Krishna and Krishna's devotees are pleased with us. The best example is the Pandavas. The Pandavas went through so much difficulties, but they were never unhappy. They were never unhappy. So when we come to the path of spirituality, then realize that Krishna is our complete and only controller. So anyhow, so Chitraketu had everything, had money, had a wife, even had a very handsome, very beautiful child, right? But due to not directly seeking the enjoyment of the Supreme Lord, therefore he became very distressed. And at that time, actually, the sages came to actually give him the spiritual enlightenment. So that's why, in one sense, materially being a failure is very good, because ultimately material happiness or material achievement is a failure only. As far as the soul's perspective is concerned, it's a complete failure. It's completely useless. So, like I mentioned, that we have to develop uh, in the association of great souls, nobody to speak, but in the association of the great souls, we have to develop the Vaishnava qualities, or we have to see the Vaishnava qualities being genuinely exhibited. And unless we strive to develop these Vaishnava qualities, it becomes very difficult for us to actually experience the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So Chitraketu Maharaj, his instruction, I mean, his life is very instructive. That as soon as he got the instruction, he took the instruction of Angira Muni, Narad Muni as his life and soul. He took that instruction and very quickly attained perfection. You see this in the example of also Dhruva Maharaj. Many examples are there. Any example you see in Bhagavatam, as soon as they got the instruction, they practiced, the instruction, and they attain the perfection. So again and again you see. So actually, my spiritual mother said one time that in Krishna consciousness, of course, we don't judge, but at least for ourselves, to judge ourselves, uh, the way in the eyes of Krishna, at least, I can judge myself is what is my consciousness now. It doesn't matter what I did 5 years ago, it doesn't matter what I did yesterday, but what am I doing right now? What is the quality of my consciousness right now? That's what Krishna is pleased or displeased with. So they all very strictly and seriously, as soon as they got the instruction, they became very sincere and serious. That's how they got the mercy. So speaking about myself, even though I've got so many instructions and so much association, but because I've not taken it seriously, but instead I'm diluting, or I'm practicing kind of a mixed process, mixed surrender. Therefore, the result is not coming. But we can take the example of great soul, that how they are getting the result. So urja, actually, when you speak about urja, the personality to comes who comes to our mind is Srimati Radharani, because her name is Urjeshwari, and that's why Kartik Vrata is called Urja Vrata. So urja means powerful, great, and the reason why Kartik Vrata is called Urja Vrata is because it's austerity. Actually, in Bhagavatam, one of the purports, it's mentioned that Srimati Radharani, of course, she's a personification of the pleasure potency and so many things, but she is actually personification of austerity. So, doing great austerity to please the Supreme Lord in whatever way possible, that is the sum and substance of our spiritual life. So, if we can surrender to Krishna, even though it may not be very pleasing, we can practically and actively try to surrender to Krishna. And actually, surrendering to Krishna is very, very difficult. But from the lives of great souls, we can actually gain a lot of understanding on what it means to surrender to Krishna. So there are many examples in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but one great example is actually when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he glorified Rupa Goswami, because Rupa Goswami wrote that famous verse about Radharani's separation from Krishna when she met Krishna in Kurukshetra. He wrote that verse, and Mahaprabhu was so happy. Mahaprabhu asked Swarup Damodar that how is it that Rupa knows my heart so intimately? And Swarup Damodar Goswami said, yes, my Lord, because you have given him your special mercy. And then Lord Chaitanya mentioned that how that um, that how Rupa Goswami is so dear, so special, and glorified. When he glorified, he saw the faces of all the other exalted devotees, and they didn't even have a trace of envy. Of course, these are eternal liberated associates, Gaurangera Sandigane, Nitya Siddha Korimani. But this is very instructive that one, I'm speaking to myself, one cannot appreciate the glories of another person fully. One cannot glorify another devotee if one has a desire to glorify himself, or one wants glorification for himself. So actually, the main thing in Krishna consciousness, which is required to make rapid progress, only one thing is to again and again work on the false ego. That is the only thing. So if you work on the false ego and you identify the false ego as a false ego, not the real ego, more and more a devotee is able to do that, then naturally Krishna becomes very merciful to him, because our, like I mentioned, that our real property is Krishna. The real thing our soul wants is only Krishna's. Soul doesn't want anything else. So when we identify with that we want Krishna's pleasure, the soul wants to taste Krishna's happiness. So when more and more we can identify with that, and the more and more we withdraw, uh, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that how you withdraw the senses. So the more and more we withdraw the senses, the mind, the ego from taking pleasure in this world, more and more and more, then the more and more Krishna will open up the spiritual world for us. The more and more Krishna will open up spiritual pleasures for us, spiritual activities for us, more and more. So, actually, even the slightest uh, proposition of spiritual engagement is so much more promising and so much more attractive than the highest material pleasure. So that's what the six Goswamis taught. And the six Goswamis, they were not like temple presidents or GBCs or anything. The six Goswamis were completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. The six Goswamis never thought that they will become six Goswamis. The six Goswamis never thought, okay, we'll become the acharyas for the future. But they just thought that we just want to do something little bit to please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, they raised them to such a level that the whole world, we are drawing inspiration from them now. Right? So the thing is that how is it possible? It's possible because they were deriving pleasure from within. So by their own example, they're teaching that although we may be doing so many activities, but unless we strive to derive pleasure from within by as much as possible by working on the false ego, like it's very difficult, but we can pray. If not, we can at least pray to the pure devotees. Tolerance, how Haridas Thakur demonstrated so much tolerance. Um, Even though he was beaten in so many marketplaces, still he chanted the holy name. Still he chanted the holy name. And one thing very instructive in this regard is that Haridas Thakur, his tolerance, his humility reached such a level that he became so humble that even though he had the opportunity to have Mahaprabhu's association in such an abundant way, but still he practiced the austerity that he forcefully denied himself Mahaprabhu's association. So that's the highest level of tolerance, and that's why I remind myself that what is the price for chanting? What is the price for? Because if someone gets a taste for chanting, then you don't need anything else in this world. Everything else in this world just seems completely insignificant. Like one time, a spiritual master was saying that if you have any problem, just pick up your big bag and start chanting, and then everything will be okay. You don't need anything else in the world. So, I mean, that kind of taste of the holy name, like so many times there's so many problems, so many this, and then you pick up the bead bag, and bead bag also doesn't give that kind of reciprocation. But these pure devotees, when they pick up the bead bag, then they just go to a different realm. They just cease to exist in this realm. So tolerance, and then the next thing is, yes, humble like a blade of grass. Yeah, this is very difficult, especially speaking for myself when we put into very challenging situations. When when someone corrects or someone chastises, and immediately, the ego, the desire to be appreciated becomes so strong. But what Mahaprabhu said, that humbler than the blade of grass, which means that the grass stands back up, but become more humble than that, which means that don't protest, don't think to myself, don't argue, don't defend yourself. Then giving respect to everyone else. This is something that His Grace Yoshua was mentioning recently about the finer qualities. So as we come in the association of devotees, yesterday I was hearing that the first offense to a devotee is when you see a devotee, if you don't become happy, that means it's an offense. So happy in the sense, of course, we don't have to stop our service, but happy means at least we are inspired. We are because the devotee is serving Krishna, we're very happy. Right? So at least that level of happiness. So giving respect to everyone. So in course of time, when we stop giving respect to devotees because of familiarity, then what happens is that naturally we lose the finer qualities. We lose the finer qualities, and then naturally subtly that thing that no, I'm better than him, it comes. I mean, it's very subtle, but it comes. And then even if someone helped us in our Krishna consciousness, by not appreciating them, by not following the proper etiquette, slowly, initially that person may have introduced us to Krishna consciousness. That person may be very wonderful, and slowly that person becomes our friend. And after some time, that person becomes our junior. Because why? Because at one point of time that he was very useful to me, now he's of no use to me. Why? Because I know everything. I know chanting. I know I'm giving class also. What is the need for him? What is I'm doing more programs than him? I'm doing what's the need for him? So this subtle, and this is results in other aparats. Because if you do aparat to one devotee, that same nature repeats everywhere. So yeah, so it's very dangerous. So giving respect to others, and the last is to not demand any respect for oneself. So this is the most difficult thing of all the four. The most difficult thing, and this can only we can only have this kind of consciousness when Krishna is very pleased with us, very pleased, and he gives us a spiritual happiness. Then only this desire will go for any name, any fame in this world. Mm. So this is the sum and substance of our philosophy, that life is meant for austerity. Austerity is meant to please the Supreme Lord, and ultimately more and more enter towards the spiritual reality. So, yeah, I'm not qualified to speak anything, but yes, one thing that we can work on, even more, sometimes chanting also, it's very difficult to work. We may force ourselves to chant, force ourselves, but sometimes to focus in an undistracted manner on the holy name may be difficult. Uh, but at least one thing we can work on practically is the service attitude. So service attitude is that thing which Prabhupada says which will attract the pleasure of Krishna. So more and more we can work on being enthusiastic for our service, trying our best, whatever service we may be doing, trying to do it for Krishna's pleasure, at least starting with external details, and reading and hearing about those who have performed that kind of service with great enthusiasm. That is something that will greatly help us in our spiritual life. And ultimately, all that matters in this life is what is Krishna's opinion about us, what Krishna thinks about us. That's all is important. Uh, we have to again and again remind ourselves of these things. This one point. You remember this one point. Everything else is understood properly. Like Prabhu Saraswati Thakur says that if the whole world glorifies me, but Krishna is not pleased with me, then what's the use of that glorification? And then he says, if the whole world spits at me, but Krishna is pleased, I don't care for that. So this is very, very instructive, very powerful. And Prabhupada personifies that. One I heard this one time, Srila Prabhupada said that if the whole, even one devotee told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you have done great thing. Prabhupada said that if my Guru Maharaj is not pleased with me, what is the use of all these things? Completely useless. And Prabhupada said it with such gravity, it really like shook my heart. Like Prabhupada is saying, what? This ISKCON movement, this books is all completely useless. Like Prabhupada actually meant it. So anyhow, so yeah, that's our only hope is to cultivate this service attitude and just to follow our authorities, our seniors. Actually, the more and more we become the servant of the servant of the servant, then we have that means our faith is more and more and more. So the more and more servants of the Supreme Lord we accept and we serve under their guidance, under their shelter, that means we have more and more faith in Krishna. And so by that faith, uh, by having that faith in Krishna, that Krishna is there, Krishna will reciprocate. So we have to have that kind of faith. We have to cultivate that kind of faith. And the only thing that we need to do in spiritual life is we just have to stay. We have to stay enthusiastically, humbly in spiritual life. And just like Prabhupada says, just like a son, a responsible son, a responsible son gets the inheritance from his parents. In the same way, in course of time, we will get love of God from our previous acharyas. If we just stay and we stay enthusiastic, we stay serious, and we stay humble, then Krishna will definitely, for sure, give us the intelligence or some or other to attain love of God in this life. That should be our only prayer. When we take shelter, see the details, should be only prayer. My Lord, whatever happens in this life, that's all right. But ultimately, I want to attain love of God in this life at any cost. Why? Because only if I attain love of Godhead can I serve you, can I please you. Hmm? So, Krishna, please put me through whatever austerity you want, whatever you do, you're the controller. But I just have one desire that some or other, Guru and Krishna, I want love of God in this life at any cost. Hmm? And please give me the intelligence to act in such a way, to serve in such a way that I can receive that gift. Hmm? So I'll end here. Please forgive me, it's a little late. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
You said that only by attaining love of Godhead we can serve or please Krishna. Then what about, I'm speaking out myself, I'm not at that level. So whatever I'm serving, you, I know it is external only anyways, I don't put my heart in serving and all.
No, but let me. So,
Yeah,
no, so,
please
no,
clarify that.
yeah, no, I'm not, I mean, I have nothing, no love that you have. You have so much love for Krishna. But the thing is that what I mean to say is that ultimately, if we want to serve Krishna in the spiritual world, that's what I meant. So, to serve Krishna in spiritual world, we need love of God. So, thing is, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna says that the real thing that pleases me is the spontaneous love of God. So, yeah, I'm speaking about the highest thing. And then, of course, there are grades. Uh, our greatest solace is that yes, you are very sincere, very wonderful devotee, you're a very wonderful devotee. But our greatest solace is that we are following, trying, or we should try to follow mm, the instructions of Prabhupada very, very strictly. So, as much as we are trying to please Prabhupada, Prabhupada will take care of pleasing Krishna when we try to follow Prabhupada's instructions. But what I mean to say is that yes, ultimately, if we follow the process given by Srila Prabhupada, then we should attain love of Godhead, or we want to attain love of Godhead. So, keeping the ultimate, because when we keep the ultimate goal in mind, then we can tolerate any difficulties or any problems in the way. So that's what I mean. Because the thing is that unless the goal is very attractive and the goal is very inspiring, naturally, we will not chase after the goal. We may give so many excuses, so many things, because the greatest hindrance in our progress is to root out the independent nature, the desire to enjoy separate of Krishna. Like, I want a break from seva, I want a break from chanting. So, this is the greatest disease, and this is not easy. It's very difficult to get rid of this disease. So, unless we are very inspired by the goal, how will we get rid of this disease? And nobody else can fight against this disease, only we have to fight. Right? So, Rory, you need to take photo. So, yes, we'll end here. Anyone else have any question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Vedanta. There's one question. Really, how to, you're saying to make the goal attractive, how to make the goal attractive, really? I mean, if the goal is not attractive, we cannot progress more, but how to make the goal more attractive, really?
Yeah, so Prabhuji, by hearing from pure devotees about the goal, and that's why Prabhupada gave us books like Krishna book, Prabhupada gave us books like Chaitanya Charitamrita. These books, especially Chaitanya Charitamrita, when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's very, very attractive because Chaitanya Charitamrita speaks about the inner moods of devotion. Like, it's all about Seva Bhav. The whole Chaitanya Charitamrita is just about what is going on inside the heart of all the exalted devotees while they're serving, whether it's Raghav Pandit just cooking some offerings, or whether it's Haridas Thakur chanting the holy name, whether it's Shivananda Saint doing Vaishnav Seva, whether it's reading Bhagavatam, whether it's seeing Mahaprabhu, Kirtan, it's just about how to make our what is the mood going on inside, what is the moods going on inside the heart of the pure devotees. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is the number one book. It is the most inspiring book for us, how to cultivate pure devotional service. And when we become very attracted to that, um, then yeah, we want to attain that.
So,
Thank you for
like, if I'm in mode of ignorance, even if I read, I might not get attracted.
No.
If I read it in
Even if you're in mode of ignorance, if you read, it's very attractive, bro. Chaitanya Charitamrita, God Leela is very merciful. It doesn't matter which mode you are, it's super attractive, bro. The only qualification to be attracted is to have little faith and yeah, to that you're practicing. Definitely will be attracted. Doesn't Chaitanya Charitamrita is extremely powerful. It's very powerful.
But if it is better if we read in association of the devotee.
Yeah, I mean, it's better if we hear also, but reading also, it's very powerful. Even the translation, just reading the translation alone, Prabhupada has invested so much spiritual energy in Chaitanya because Prabhupada stopped. I mean, Prabhupada, you see in his pastimes, he didn't complete Bhagavatam, but he pushed himself and he pushed the devotees to complete Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like devotees who finished Chaitanya Charitamrita, Devamrit Maharaj was mentioning, they didn't sleep for like a month. They worked so hard, and Prabhupada wanted that, right? So, yeah.
Why I ask this question because we are giving books like this to so many people. They are reading it, but they are not coming. They are not they are not getting that much attracted, and they are not coming to programs. Also, they are just reading it, keeping it, and they are not getting connected. So that is why they wanted to ask.
Yeah, bro. I mean, that's true. They may not, but I'm speaking for us as devotees who are initiated, who are in the path. I'm speaking about, we're initiated, we're trying. Sincere devotees, who have at least come to the steps and 16 rounds and falling, definitely for them, Charitamrita is very, and actually, the greatest service actually in one sense is yes is to get many people, but also the greatest service is to elevate those. Like you brought 10 people, if we can give them that kind of faith, that kind of attraction to the that they will go back to God, and that is the greatest service actually, right? So that's also there. Give them that kind of guaranteed thing that definitely because of their enthusiasm, because of the inspiration, they will definitely go back to God. So that's amazing service we can do. So online, anyone has any question or comment?
Yes, Prabhu.
Sorry. Yes, sorry.
Actually, I don't have a question, and also I'm not qualified to share or comment, but so some points that I like from yours, that is, and based on my previous like I think like what I so you talked about not my pleasure and but only Krishna pleasure. So this is what I saw for myself. Uh, Always the thing is that our mind, if we are we always look for self pleasure, even if it's during service or non-service. So it's like uh, again and again the mind moves towards the self pleasure and not towards the Krishna's pleasure. And I think only by the guidance of a bona fide guru can actually act uh, towards only Krishna's pleasure. So this was something that was happening in the sense like if we're serving, there also we try to look for some kind of okay, like you mentioned, am I doing more programs? Am I doing this more than this or something? Or if we are in the other league where we are not doing anything, then we try to look for self-fame. If we have some maybe in our work, in our studies, or what we are doing, those things. So the most important thing, like you mentioned too, is that I think only Krishna's pleasure. I think that's the most important. I like that most. So that was great. And another thing you mentioned about false ego. So during this process itself, I think false ego is much deeper than what we think it is. Actually, it's very deep rooted, and we always try to get entangled with that and preventing from doing pure devotional service. like you had mentioned all the qualities that we need to have: tolerance, without aparat, without like only service mode, and pleasing the guru and all that. So I think the false ego and false ego combined with the independence mentality, where we try to not be dependent on something for service or some other things, our spiritual progress, but trying to do our own activities. So that is one of the most biggest impediments. So that was something I've been seeing just for myself. But thank
Yeah,
you.
speak about me, Prabhuji.
No.
Yes.
No, but I thank you.
Online, anyone has any question or comment?
Yeah,
Please, Suji.
very inspired by your comment. So, we will pass them. Thank you so much. But I like the point Prayas mentioning, made me a little more thoughtful. That Rohinandan was making, we are giving Chaitanya Chaitanya, we are giving books, but they are not coming to the programs. That means I was thinking, I mean, I could still be reading, but am I doing something to decelerate the mercy, right? Where I don't feel inspired. So I was thinking, what am I doing? So I was thinking, Mahaprabhu is so merciful that I'm not, like that there is no way that one cannot get mercy by coming in contact. So I was thinking, the only way I cannot get mercy is to not contact it.
Yeah. Yeah, because
If I don't contact it, then like when I say contact, there are one thing, right? There is false ego. So because of a very indifferent attitude towards Chaitanya Charitamrita, I read on what's there, right? So so I'm having indifferent attitude towards Chaitanya Charitamrita, that what's there? I just read this verse. Like this is exaggerating too much. This is too much. You can say something about the holy name, but like to say you cry and dance, okay, this is an exaggeration. Arthavada.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I would say, Navroji, that the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Gaur Nitai, they just, I mean, because, I mean, we can put a kind of limit on everything, but Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can put no limit to their mercy. So the thing is that 100% we should have this unflinching faith for sure that Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, and their pastimes, the only thing we have to do is we have to read again and again, that's all. And then we will definitely become ecstatic for sure. I mean, even if, I'm telling you from my personal experience, even if your consciousness is super, super low, but if you take shelter of Gaurnita, you take shelter of Charitamrita, you will definitely become ecstatic because those pastimes, they consider no qualification and they consider no offense. Of course, Vaishnava Aparadh is there, but apart from, an overt, because we may not do like overt Vaishnava Aparadh, like, but many times we may, as speak on myself, we may not be so enthused in Krishna consciousness, but when you take shelter of Gaurnitai, then definitely, for sure, their mercy, like Prabhupada says, right, that Apara Karuna, I forgot that song. Yeah, Jabadam Maharaj wrote that song, Apara Karuna. Apara Karuna means that Karuna which has no limit, which has no limit and which never fails, under any circumstance, never fails. That mercy, that compassion never, ever, ever fails. It is completely unconditional. Right? So that is the thing.
I'm sorry, that will take the time, but just want to add one. That is just talking about the independence mentality. So I think in this Kali-yuga, just talking about myself, but the souls, we are not trained to actually look for Krishna's pleasure actually, but we are always looking for. So this is what. So I'm talking all of this on my basis. So uh, after one self pleasure, if we are bereft of that, we try to immediately take a shelter of some other pleasure and again something else. So we always are trained in that way. Our minds are so poorly conditioned, and we never think of Krishna that, oh, okay, when we have Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we need to actually serve. So that, and I think uh, there is always probably we can say a scare actually. So, when like when we pray that way, our mind should not be independent actually. So we, instead of being Krishna consciousness, we are Krishna conscious, or we develop a conception of ourselves actually, like our sense of what Krishna consciousness is. If let's say we are not in the midst of devotees, we are somewhere alone or some independent, then we do have that, okay, we have to serve Krishna, but we do not get the, it's not the same thing. It's our, okay, and false ego develops where we say that, oh, I'm serving Krishna in some way, so I think this is what it's justified actually. So, I mean, in summary, I think what I personally feel to is, for the bhakti process, for the Kali Yuga, like here, there shouldn't be anything called as independent. There always the soul should be dependent on Guru guidance and Krishna. I mean, there shouldn't be any template of being independent actually. Only then, like, because then there is one sort of maybe we can say a guilt, or one sense of like being scared of that way, thinking, oh, when would we be transferred to the independent mode, that we are will again go back to the false ego and other things.
I'm sorry, you have to end now. It's 9. Anyone has any last comment, anything online? Sorry. Okay, please forgive me for if I committed any offenses, spoke anything wrong. Okay. Chaitanya Charitamrita is recommended to be studied after studying Srimad Bhagavatam. How can one read Chaitanya Charitamrita before understanding other scriptures? So yeah, I mean, actually, great devotees say you can do parallelly also. Can read parallelly also Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam. Is always another point says you can study parallelly also. And yeah, basically, if you accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you accept, and Lord Chaitanya as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then yeah, you can reach Chaitanya Charitamrita. No problem. That is answer to that.